My name's Aiden, I'm 35, and I once believed family stood for something. That no matter how strange or chaotic things became, shared blood would ensure a flicker of devotion. Turns out that's just a comforting tale people spin to rest easier at night. I learned this the hard way during Thanksgiving of all occasions. For background, I'm the eldest of three siblings. My sister Clara, 32, has always been the dazzling one. You know, the kind, star cheerleader, pageant runner-up, always with a new guy captivated by her every word. Then there's Evan, 28, the youngest, who stays quiet, avoids conflict, and usually aligns with whoever's voice carries the loudest. Our parents, Nora and George, split when we were teenagers, and somehow Clara turned even that into a theatrical show, sobbing dramatically for her friends, manipulating both sides for extra sympathy. Meanwhile, I was juggling 2 part-time jobs at 16 to help Mom pay the rent. Clara got a shiny new car for her high school graduation. I got a pile of overdue bills. After college, I built a stable career in finance, made wise choices, and invested early. By 27, I owned a modest duplex. By 30, my student loans were cleared. Last year, my tech startup crossed 6 figures in earnings. Through it all, I stayed generous. I never flaunted my achievements or kept score, but I did pay Evan's hospital bills when he was jobless. I helped Clara with a deposit for her wedding. I even offered to back a loan when Dad's latest venture crashed. Thankfully, the bank rejected it. I thought I was being a supportive brother. Turns out, I was just the fool in their narrative. The shift started about 6 months ago. Clara's texts dwindled. Evan stopped picking up my calls. Mom's replies turned curt and elusive, *busy, let's catch up soon. Then a cousin mentioned Clara was expecting and I hadn't even been told. When I congratulated her, she brushed it off with, "Oh, I thought Evan mentioned it." He hadn't. It was subtle at first. Missed invites, choices made without me, family gatherings I only heard about after they happened. I blamed it on life's drift, but something felt intentional. Then came Thanksgiving. Clara insisted on hosting this year, breaking our usual rotation. Her new house, grander, flashier, thanks to her husband's real estate ties, was ideal for entertaining, she said. I offered to bring wine and a dessert, but she waved it off. "No need, we've got it covered, just show up." That should have been my first warning. I arrived on time, pie and a bottle of Merlot in hand. The door was slightly open, laughter spilling out. Inside, the house gleamed like a showroom, gold accents, sparkling lights, personalized place cards at the table. But mine was missing. I stood in the doorway, puzzled, until I noticed a folded napkin on a lone bar stool in the corner. Aiden scrawled on it. No plate, no silverware, just my name. I held it together. I set the pie on the counter and greeted everyone with a forced smile. No one got up. No one seemed thrilled or even surprised to see me. Clara gave me a quick peck on the cheek and a chirpy, "You're here?" as if I were a distant acquaintance gate crashing. Evan offered a weak wave from across the room. Mom wouldn't look at me. Dinner ran late. Clara's husband, Julian, gave a lengthy speech about gratitude and cherishing those who elevate us. My name never came up. I raised my glass anyway. The food was impeccable, no question, but the vibe? I felt it deep in my core, an undercurrent, like everyone shared a secret I wasn't privy to. Conversations hushed when I passed by. Whispers resumed when I sat. Julian kept glancing at Clara. Evan avoided my gaze. Then, as plates were cleared for dessert, Clara stood, tapping her glass with a spoon. "I've got news," she announced, glowing. Long overdue. Everyone turned to her, already smiling like they knew what was coming. She looked straight at me. We held a vote. Me, Mom, Evan, Julian. "We've decided you're no longer part of this family." Laughter followed, actual laughter, clinking glasses. Evan joined in. Mom raised her glass slowly like she was toasting a funeral. Even Clara's pregnancy seemed smug. I stared, blinking, wondering if this was some twisted family joke. But their eyes were cold. Firm, final. My chest tightened. Betrayal, fury, and a deep, sickening sorrow churned inside. But I didn't waver. I smiled, a calm, almost peaceful smile, reached into my bag beside the stool. "In that case," I said softly, "this won't be needed." I dropped a manila folder on the table. The room went quiet. Clara's smile wavered. She grabbed the folder, flipping it open. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the next. By the third, her face paled. "What is this asterisk?" she asked, her voice sharp. Julian leaned over, reading. Evan stood. Mom stepped closer. The shouting started before the turkey was even cleared. Julian's chair screeched as he pushed it back, voice rising. "You're lying." Clara shook her head, still staring at the folder like it might combust. "No, he's not. He's not lying," she whispered. Mom snatched the papers from Clara's hands, skimming them. Her eyes widened. "What did you do, Aiden?" I stayed seated, composed. My heart raced, but I'd practiced this moment too many times to let it show. "That," I said, nodding at the folder, "asterisk is a detailed record of every financial contribution I've made to this family over the past 12 years. Every rent payment, every loan, every transfer. That nursery upstairs, Clara, with the custom mural, funded by the bonus I earned from selling my shares last spring. And Evan, remember when your car broke down in 2021 and I bailoed you out? That wasn't a gift. It was a personal loan with a deferred repayment clause when you never paid back. The contract you signed is in there." Clara looked stunned. Julian's mouth opened and shut like a fish. Evan sank into his chair, eyes darting. Mom's lips tightened, but she stayed silent. "I never asked for praise," I continued. "I didn't need thanks or glory. But you don't get to cast me out of a family I've been financially propping up for a decade." Clara shot to her feet, knocking over her wine glass, red spilling across the white tablecloth. "You're trying to shame me?" "No," I said, standing too. "You shamed yourself when you publicly exiled me like I was some leech." Julian grabbed the folder, flipping through it. "Hold on, these legal notices. What's this about a deed transfer?" "Oh, that," I said casually. "Funny story. When Clara needed help with her down payment last year, she was in such a hurry she didn't read the fine print on the documents I sent. I own half that house, legally, on record. And when I found out I wasn't invited to your baby shower, I started updating my estate lawyer. Check the last page for the recent motion." Clara's voice cracked. "You're selling the house?" "No," I said, crossing my arms. "I'm selling my share. And if that makes the whole property unsellable, that's your issue." Julian was sweating, now pale. "This is absurd. You can't just spring this on us." "I can," I said, "because while you were all plotting this little vote, I was safeguarding myself." Mom finally spoke. "Aiden, this is too much." I turned to her. "Too much? You all publicly disowned me like I was a disgrace. You watched Clara humiliate me and cheered. And now you're upset I didn't just take it like always." Evan spoke up, hesitant. "We didn't think you didn't think, Evan, I cut in. That's the issue." "None of you did." Clara's eyes glistened, anger, shame, or fear, I couldn't tell. "You're tearing this family apart." "No," I said. "I'm walking away from the ruins. You lit the fire." "I just stopped buying the fuel." The room fell silent except for the soft ticking of the clock above the fireplace. I looked at the people I'd once called family. People I'd supported, loved, forgiven countless times. Now they stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd finally become someone who didn't bend just to keep things calm. I grabbed my coat from the bar stool and headed for the door. Clara moved to stop me, but Julian held her back. At the threshold, I turned. "One last thing," I said. "Check your accounts by morning. I'm cutting all joint access I still had. Credit cards, utilities, streaming services, everything. Consider it part of the freedom you voted for." I stepped into the chilly November night. Behind me, Clara's voice rose again, the arguing already starting. But I didn't pause. I didn't look back. For once, I was only answering to myself. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in my car, engine humming, watching the warm glow flicker through Clara's frosted windows. For years, that light had meant something: tradition, joy, warmth. Now it felt artificial, like a stage set after the curtain fell. Lights on, but no story left to tell. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts. Not even from Evan, who used to call me for everything: car issues, job advice, even what tie to wear to a wedding. Just silence. Fine. I drove to my apartment, a penthouse I never boasted about. Sleek, simple, fully paid. I poured a glass of whiskey, sat by the window, and pulled out the second folder from my bag, the one I hadn't shown them. Inside were copies of every updated document I'd filed over the past 2 months. Trust revisions, property liens, deed transfers, legal terms all vetted by my attorney. I hadn't planned to go this far tonight. I'd hoped it wouldn't come to this. But Clara made the choice when she tapped her glass. That vote, it freed me. They thought they were cutting me loose. They didn't know I'd already started preparing to walk away long before Thanksgiving. The subtle exclusions, the group chats I was quietly removed from, the holidays I wasn't invited to. It stung at first deeply, but it also gave me clarity. I saw them for who they were. Clara was always the golden child, the one with the tantrums, the theatrics, the hollow apologies. I used to fix her messes, pay her debts, cover for her when she skipped Mom's birthday or forgot Evan's graduation. She always said thanks until it became expected. Demanded. Anything less was betrayal. Mom enabled it, always had. "She's just in a phase," she'd say. That phase lasted 2 decades. And Evan. I don't think he meant to be cruel, but he followed the path of least resistance. Clara had a pull he couldn't resist. It wasn't just money. It was the laughter when I wasn't there. The decisions made in rooms I was excluded from. Like when they refinanced the family cabin without telling me, even though my name was on the deed. Or when they started sending me bills for expenses I wasn't part of. Clara's baby shower, Mom's kitchen remodel, Julian's dog's vet bills. They'd slowly turned me into less of a family member and more of a bank account. A silent partner who never got invited to the meetings but was expected to pay the tab. The real wake-up call came in September. A bank alert flagged a suspicious transaction. Clara had tried to open a credit line against the house I co-owned without my signature. The bank rejected it, thankfully, but I dug deeper. That's when I found it all, the forged documents, the quiet changes to our agreement, the whispers of just remove Aiden, he won't notice. I noticed. That's when I got the lawyer. The next morning I met with him again. I handed over the second folder. Proceed, he asked. I nodded, full speed. It was never about vengeance. Not initially. But there's a point where protecting yourself looks like retaliation to those who profited from your silence. By Monday, they'd feel it. The utilities Clara never fully paid for, transferred to her name. The portion of Evan's tuition I'd been quietly covering, canceled. Mom's condo remodel. The contractor would call about the stopped payment, and the Leonide filed until she repaid the $18,400 she borrowed. The cabin they thought was theirs to refinance. I now own it outright. But the real bombshell, the one that would shatter everything, was something they didn't yet know. Julian had pitched me on an investment 6 months ago, a high-end housing project. He needed quick funding and offered equity. I provided the cash but never signed the papers securing his share. He thought we were partners. Legally, I was the sole investor. Everything, the permits, the lots, the assets, was mine. And Clara. She'd listed that project on her baby registry. I gazed out the window as snowflakes began to fall, drifting under the city's glow. For the first time in years, I felt peace. The phone buzzed. Evan, I didn't answer. Instead, I watched it ring out, then opened a new group chat titled We Need to Talk. Mom's message, you've made your point. We're still family. Clara's. What you did was heartless. Evan's, please call me. I set the phone face down, let them stew. They wanted me gone. Now they'd learn what that really meant. I didn't reply to the group chat that night. Or the next, or the day after. I left the messages unread, not because I missed them, but because I wanted them to feel the void. To sit in the quiet the way their rejection had smothered me for years. Cold, heavy, relentless. By Friday, their world was unraveling. It started with the utilities. Julian called 5 times that morning, no voicemail, just persistent calls. I ignored them. Then an email, the heat's off. Clara's 8 months pregnant, Aiden. We need to fix this. I forwarded it to my lawyer with a note. All utility accounts now Clara's responsibility per the transfer. That afternoon, Evan texted, panicked. They locked my campus account. I can't access anything. Please, I didn't mean for this. He knew I'd co-signed his financial aid extension. He didn't know I'd revoked it 2 days earlier. A week later, the real chaos hit. Clara's house, their house as she called it, was under partition review. My lawyer had filed to sell my 50% stake. The appraisal team showed up Thursday. Clara lost it, reportedly screaming at the surveyor on her lawn in pajamas. Julian was furious, emailing me with his lawyer CC'd, challenging my ownership. My response was sharp, scanned documents, notarized agreements, timelines, all airtight. Julian's paperwork was incomplete. Mine wasn't. They went quiet, but that wasn't all. Julian's housing project, the one he called our gold mine. I sent a withdrawal notice to the planning board under my company's name. Since Julian never secured his equity, the permits, lots, and assets were mine. I sold the land to a competitor the next week. For profit. Julian lost it. He showed up at my building, banging on the lobby doors. Security removed him. I watched from my window, arms crossed. That night, Clara called for the first time since Thanksgiving. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was softer than I'd anticipated. No bitterness, no rage. Just weary fatigue. I understand now, she said. You weren't just trying to wound us. You were shielding yourself. I screwed up. We all did. I thought you'd always be there. You always were, even when we didn't earn it. There was a pause, followed by a trembling breath. I don't expect you to forgive us. I just needed you to know that. I kept the voicemail. Not out of nostalgia, but because I wanted a record of what accountability sounded like, even if it arrived years too late. Then Mom called. That one I picked up. Aiden, she said, her voice unsteady. Are you really done with us? I didn't respond immediately. I was staring out my window again, watching snow dust the city's skyscrapers like icing settling on chilled metal. Mom, I said at last, you pushed me away long ago. You just didn't say it outright. You did it with your actions time and again. She went silent. Then you're right, that caught me off guard. It shouldn't have, but it did. My heart gave a small lurch. Some foolish part of me still hoped she truly saw me. I let Clara get away with too much. I let you carry too much. I didn't want to admit how bad things had gotten. Her voice cracked as she went on. I'm sorry. I sank onto the edge of my bed, swallowing the unexpected knot in my throat. Not because her words mended anything, but because I knew what it took for her to say them. I don't hate you, I said. Any of you. I'm just done giving up my peace for people who only value me for what I provide. A long pause followed. Asterisk, will you come for Christmas? She asked quietly. I gave a dry chuckle. I think I'll sit this one out. The weeks passed. Clara and Julian had to buy out my share of the house to keep it. That meant taking out a hefty loan. I heard through a shared acquaintance that Julian secured it by putting a second mortgage on his parents' home. Evan paused his studies for a semester to regroup. He sent me a handwritten letter, clumsy and long-winded but genuine. He wrote that he'd grown too comfortable relying on me and hadn't spent enough time discovering who he was without my support. I respected that. As for me, I embraced my peace and ran with it. I booked a solo trip to Norway for January, rented a cabin perched above a frozen fjord. No internet, no phone signal, just snow, timber, and quiet. It was the most grounded I'd felt in years. When I returned, I started a new project untethered to anyone else's demands. I donated a portion of the earnings to scholarship programs for adults. Quietly. No fuss. I saw Clara once more in the spring. I was strolling through a park and there she was with her baby, Lily. She looked drained, older somehow. Life had softened her edges. She waved. I nodded back. That was enough. Families don't always shatter with a crash. Sometimes it's 1,000 tiny wounds over time, so small you barely notice until one day you realize you're bleeding out. But sometimes, walking away isn't the end. Sometimes it's the start. Of recovery, of self-worth, of peace. So no, I wasn't out of the family. I just chose to create one of my own, on my own terms.